Hello, welcome. My name is Michael, and today we're sitting in my wife's car, the Volvo S90. This car is absolutely amazing. This car driving makes you feel like a king. No, it really does. It's an amazing vehicle, and just the fact that I get the pleasure to drive this quite often because I try and take it as much as I can, but it's so comfortable. Driving into the city where it's a very anxiety-inducing drive because what should be taking 45 minutes takes an hour and a half because of construction. People are honking, and it seemed like there was a gunshot on the way here into the downtown area. Like there was a very loud noise that sounded exactly like a gunshot, and we were going through a very sketchy area. Because we had to detour from the highway and whatnot. But anyways, regardless, this car has a lot of noise insulation. And for its price point, it's basically the more effective, cost-effective purchase than if you're comparing to an S-Class or a 7 Series or an Audi A8. Of course, those vehicles will have more technology. Of course, they'll be more luxurious. Of course, some of them will have a lot more horsepower. But for the price and what you're getting, this is a pretty fair deal, especially considering that for this price point right now, depending on what trim you purchase of the S90, you have a lot of normal vehicles, non-premium, non-luxury. They have a lot less technology. They don't have as much noise insulation. They're not as safe. They don't have as comfortable seats as Volvo does. Volvo has really comfortable seats. These vehicles are going up in price like crazy. So you have normal SUVs and sedans and EVs now that are starting to get real expensive. And this is the flagship model of Volvo. This is the creme de la creme. So obviously it's going to be more expensive than an XC40, an XC60. XC90 is essentially this, but larger, so that it's fair for that to be more expensive than this. But the XC90 and the S90, there's a reason why it's priced where it is. And Volvo wants to stay competitive. They know that, maybe not in America, but in Asia and in Europe, there's a fair market for sedans. In America, it's a lot of SUVs, so that's why the XC90's the best-selling Volvo in America right now. And that's why it has been around for so many years, because Americans love the third-row SUV, and in Europe, you don't have that. But they understand that for the global presence of Volvo, there's a certain market of buyer that's loving this. And you can see it in Chicago. There's chauffeurs, there's the Uber Blacks, the limos. You have the fully blacked out S90s. I see them everywhere, or the XC90s. It's a favorite choice because compared to some of the other options, it stands out. It's something that's like, oh yes, without having to spend over $100,000 getting into the super luxury territory. This vehicle was at $61,000, and for that price point, you have an amazing deal compared to, say, I just out of random curiosity started exploring, what if I was looking at a Ford Mach-E? And then you start exploring the pricing, and even with the EV rebates, it's like, whoa, okay, well, I would want a better sound system than just a standard sound system. So that obviously puts me into the mid-trim. Well, this Harman Kardon system, I sat in a Ford with the Bang & Olufsen. I actually sat in a couple. I sat in a pickup truck. I sat in the Bronco. I sat in a couple Fords that had the system. And the Bang & Olufsen on an Audi is a lot better than the Harman Kardon in a Volvo. But in a Ford, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just a name. It's the manufacturer that partners up with, the Harman Kardon, Bose, Bang & Olufsen, whoever is the collaboration with, but they're ultimately the manufacturer. They get some advice, but they're the ones who design the sound system, and that's why you have a luxury vehicle with a mid-trim sound system that sounds so much better than a normal non-luxury vehicle with the highest trim top system. And it's like, anyway, so that mid-trim Mach-E with incentives, you're already in the 50s. And that's not including Some of them are spec'd better, so you could have a very well spec'd, close to the 60s Mach-E. And then you start getting into the GTs and all that, and at that point you're like, oh boy. So and that's not, that's not even a comparable car. It was just like, oh, okay, what if I start looking at this? This is kind of cool. I've been seeing a lot of these Mach-E's. They're expensive. Now, the rates on them are amazing. Ford's doing like 0% right now, but just a bunch of normal cars that you got like Toyotas now and Hondas that are getting very expensive. And ultimately, it's the payments that people are going to be looking at least in America, where most everybody finances and leases. So you have very good incentives with Volvo. Not as good as Ford, but pretty good incentives in terms of the rates, in terms of the discounts, in terms of the EV bonuses, in terms of just everything. And the Volvo experience, depending on which dealership you go to, but most of them will be pretty open to negotiation. There's some brands where they're not going to negotiate with you. There's other brand dealerships where most of them will. And yes, there will always be that outlier that goes against the tide. But I've certainly seen how I was at Infiniti, I was at Mitsubishi, I was at Volvo. I've certainly seen huge differences between each brand. They don't control the dealerships. The dealerships are their own entity, but they influence and they tell them, this is what we'd like for you to do, and they have some control. They don't control them fully, but obviously you're selling the brand. They're going to be checking up on you and just seeing how the system goes. But ultimately, it's the rates and the payments. And if you get a car that is priced very well for potentially hundreds of dollars less than the competition or right there, but it's at a better quality level, then that's amazing. So I absolutely love the fact that we took this. It was either this or the XC60, but this one has just so much more presence. This one just stands out a ton compared to everything else out there on the road. And every time I get into it, I absolutely feel amazing. It's just a wonderful experience. You feel great getting into this car. I honestly love everything about it. The window shades, the sound system, the smooth acceleration, the Polestar mode. We've certainly tested that out. That was fun as well, racing against people. Volvo's all about safety, so we drive safe. No, I wish it made its crazy exhaust, but that would go against the whole safe policy. So anyways, thanks for watching. There she is. Look at that. That's gorgeous.